Welcome to the show, everyone. I am so excited about bringing on my guest today and talking to everybody out there. We're live on Facebook, so hi to everybody out there. We're going to share the show later on today. My first guest is Tiffany Phelan, and Tiffany is the owner of Senior Helpers. Welcome back to the show. You've been coming on for a long time now, and I want you to tell everybody first a little bit about yourself, what you all do, and then today what we're going to talk about.
Sure. So thank you for having me yet again so many times on this show, and we have a great time every single time. So my name is Tiffany Phelan, and I am the owner of Senior Helpers. And what we do is we provide caregivers to assist seniors in their homes with anything from light housekeeping, maybe making some meals or assisting them with shopping. And then we do some more hands-on assistance like bathing and dressing. We assist people with Alzheimer's disease and dementia, Parkinson's disease, and other chronic conditions just to stay at home as long as they can. Of course, most people who are aging want to be able to stay at home. So we help them stay at home as long as they can with a little bit of extra help, or maybe a medium or a lot of bit of extra help every week, and help them stay right where they want to be.
You know, one thing that I know about you is, first of all, you're so passionate about what you do. You also walk the talk. You've been in their shoes, so you can tell them a little bit about that real quickly, because not everybody has been, but you have explained to them what you've been through with your parents.
Yeah, so as listeners are listening, just know I've been in your position. Most likely, if you have an aging parent, I've had 2 aging parents that I have assisted in care. So I have done this in this industry for over 20 years now. And then my mom and my dad were not married, and so were divorced by the time they needed assistance, is how I should say that. And then they both needed help kind of simultaneously. And my mom ended up living with me for 5 years before she passed away. And my dad lives just down the road from me. And he has caregivers, my mom had caregivers, and I am an only child. So blessing in a certain way, because in my opinion was the only one that mattered. And I'm sure every listener that has siblings
Can
is
relate
laughing
to
at that. And so in a way it was a blessing, and then in a way it was really challenging because I was the only one there to help make doctor's appointments and get them to the doctors if it wasn't a caregiver, and make meals and plan the shopping. And both of my parents were low income, so being able to help them work within their income and supplement that for them. So as an only child, there was quite a bit that fell on my plate, but I can say that it was a journey and challenging at times, and also really fulfilling.
But what's wonderful too about you is all the plethora of information, resources that you can also help people with as well. It's not just, let's get them in their homes filled with somebody that they could stay with and have live your life out within your home if you can. But it's more, how can I help? What can I do to help you, make you feel better about the transition that you're going to go through?
Absolutely. So over the last 20 years, I've actually personally worked with about 5,000 families. And in that time, we've seen everything. We've seen what we all think of as the perfect golden family with, no real arguments, right? Easygoing, very few of those. And then there's...
What goes on behind closed doors?
Well, we get to see it all, because anything that's been going on for the last 30, 40, 50 plus years...
Sure, it all comes out at the end.
Yep, that family dynamic, it's all going to come out at the end, and it's a time of very high emotion, right? Either good emotion or bad, but time of very high emotion, and lots of people who want to really do the best for their parents that they possibly can. But there's all these family dynamics, and so we've worked through all of that, and during that time I've just gotten to be able to see what works and what doesn't work. I've learned from each one of these folks. So what I tell families is, you all get to go through this 1 or 2, or if you're married and all 4 parents, right, maybe 4 times. And I've done this thousands and thousands of times, and we continue to do this, so we become this repository of information, and people can utilize us for information more than just on caregiving services, but what else is available, and what services is my loved one owed, or what can we tap into, or how do we work through this problem? Me and my team, we've seen it all.
Now, I'm going to give out the information, and then we're going to kind of talk, because this segues into it perfectly. First of all, you're valley-wide. Her phone number is 480-360-4141. The website is seniorhelpers.com. A+ rated everywhere, 5-star rated. You can check them out anywhere you want. And we're going to segue right into this, okay? Because it's perfect. You wanted to talk a little bit about the adult children and the challenges that they go through. Once they start to see mom or dad, or both, kind of faltering a little bit. Things are happening and now they're seeing things. And you wanted to talk about how challenging all of this can be.
Yep, and I've had a lot of your listeners call me over the time I've been on here, and everybody kind of comes in with a story. Oh my gosh, this is where we're starting, right? And one of the common threads that I see when folks reach out for the first time to figure out what am I going to do, I see these changes, is we're dealing with some grief, right? And I do a lot of education on what that grief really is. It might come out as a lot of different things. It might look like anger or irritation. It might look like profound sadness, right? It just depends where we are in that process and what the relationship was like. Fear, right? Lots of denial. That is a very common one, but it all really ties back in to this grief process. And so I always like to start with re-educating people as to what grief is, because we tend to think of grief as this is something we feel when somebody dies, right? Or a pet, or whatever, right? It's loss due to death, and that's kind of how we attach to the word grief. But really, people can grieve all kinds of things. And one of the most profound things that when I mention it, that really I can see in people's eyes, I maybe hit the nail on the head, is this grief of not having the life we thought we were gonna have.
You hit the nail on the head.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone feels that way. I see it for the parent. They're looking, they've had it all planned out. And they say, tell God the plans, and what does he do? Laugh. Because, it just doesn't work like that. But unfortunately, because no one knows the future, right?
Right.
But I think what's really difficult when you want to talk about those kids, the conversation with child and parent, now the role is sort of reversing, right?
Right.
And now the next thing you've got to take over, and that's got to be real scary, especially if they have a domineering parent, right?
There's for every imaginable scenario, we've probably seen it, right? Domineering parent and child who is, people pleaser. We've seen it the opposite way around. Anything that you can possibly imagine, many kids, few kids, everything. And what it really comes back down to is as our loved one changes, right, we're grieving maybe how we thought we were going to spend our time with them. That's very common when it's spouses. So when a spouse is caring for, say the well spouse is caring for a spouse with Alzheimer's disease, as an example, oftentimes they're grieving not being able to spend their retirement the way that they always imagined. We don't imagine spending our retirement at home answering the same exact question 4,000 times in a row, right? So that would be one example of somebody dealing with that profound grief.
Well, I tell you what, main thing is that you have resources, you have people. Where's the show has all of the people out here where you can call and get the information. And that's the first thing. You do complimentary consultations with everybody, and her phone number is 480-360-4141. She's valley-wide. You've been doing this for how many years?
I've been in this industry for about 21 years.
21 years. You can check her out on her website. It's seniorhelpers.com. 5-star rated everywhere, and you will know once you talk to her, because you're all about what you do. You would love what you do. You love helping other people. And we're going to keep our lines open here too. And for everybody, if you have a question, you can call in. I just said that because we've been saying that on all of yours. But anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to go to a break. We're going to come back and talk further. And you can call her again. It's 480-360-4141. Hang tight. We'll be back in just a minute. For a second, I thought Jenna was here.
I think I got you by accident. Good job on that.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Thank
I
you.
wasn't intending to get quite that close.
Oh, no, that was fine.
That was good. So, yeah, I think we kind of talked about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to go back to, what could it look like to bring in hope for your loved one? I think that's really important because
we've kind of covered that already in a sense,
We can, and I think we got a couple little stories.
Okay, yeah.
We'll bring
Absolutely.
folks in, and we can go over a couple things that we've done that have been really creative. Because I think, being creative. You're so going.
We're live
Yes,
on Facebook.
Just wanted to make sure. That's how we always do it.
That's a 15. We're live, and when we're going through the longer ones, we talk longer because we're live on Facebook.
Yep. So anyway, I think just going through some of the creative things, because one of the things that I know we've talked to adult children a lot about is I don't know how we're going to use 4 hours, right? How are we going to have a caregiver
That's
come in for 4 hours? All we need is help getting dressed in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much more we can do, and I think maybe highlighting a few fun stories like.
And I think people don't realize it takes older folks a lot longer, to do the things that might take somebody who's younger a little bit faster to do.
And the other thing that comes up is when a senior is asking their, say, adult son to come over and do a few things around the house, they're trying to be very targeted, right? So that the visit can go, they don't want to impose upon their time, essentially, is the reason. And so then when you have a caregiver come in who has a much longer time that they can be dedicated, and they're there not to be mother-son relationship,
No.
but just to be a caregiver, I'm here to help you, be an extra set of hands. All of a sudden, you can spend a lot more time. All of a sudden, all these things come out of the woodwork that could be done.
Oh,
right?
I'm sure.
I want to go get my nails done.
Right.
I want to go to the store
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever. So.
Absolutely, I can see that completely. And a lot of times in anything, first they shun it away. They say no, I don't need to help with that. But then all of a sudden you do it.
They don't want to
love
oppose. They don't want to oppose. That's really the big thing. Is folks just don't. I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to be trouble. So. So we can talk about that, and then
What's that?
we can talk about that, and then we can talk about just funding. How do people pay for this?
Everybody wants greater health and all that happens. We have not one, help everyone achieve that by eliminating your negative, unwanted, outdated habits and addictions in 1 to 7 days, including lifetime learning. Now's the time to take control or eliminate drug, alcohol, smoking, weight gain, stress, and depression. Get hypnotic mind, make changing fast, fun. Call now, 602-547-0446 for a 1-hour consultation and motivational CD. It is priceless and life-changing.
So welcome back, everyone. We're talking with Tiffany Phelan, and she's the owner of Senior Helpers. And we've been talking a little bit to Facebook land out there during the break. Everybody knows I do that when we do the longer segments. But let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you were explaining during the break about how sometimes a lot of the seniors, they don't want to impose. They know how long it takes. When you come in and if you're going to be there 4 hours. Oh, I don't need to be. They don't need there that long.
Absolutely. So one of the first questions we always get is, can you just come in for 45 minutes in the morning? My mom just needs help getting ready. Well, let me tell you, it's going to be very difficult for me to ensure consistency with the staff member coming over for 45 minutes, right? And so what we look at doing is how can we really creatively use our time to make our clients' lives better? And so one of the examples that we were talking about is instead of just doing a shower, which by the way takes longer than 45 minutes.
I was going to say, my mom took 45 minutes to put her rollers in,
Yep, and when you're 80, it's going to take you a little longer than 45 minutes to go through your process, right? So we know that. But I always say, one of the challenges for seniors is that all these things that they used to be totally independent in doing, whatever their hobbies were, wherever they went, maybe the library or getting their hair done or wherever it is, the things take longer, they're more tiring. Some of them are now inaccessible if this person's no longer driving, so they can't do those things. And when kids come over, oftentimes, and I've even seen this with my parents and my mother-in-law, is they don't want to be a burden. So they're going to try and get that list of to-dos as short and quick as possible. But it's amazing what happens when you have a caregiver there who gets to know, and that's really part of the magic here, is that we want our staff to get to know their client. And so we're trying to make matches that sometimes have lasted for years. I have a match that's lasted for over a decade.
That's awesome.
It's pretty incredible. And so as they get to know them, they can come up with things to do. We've had our caregivers take our clients to the gym to get their hair done, to go do their hobbies. We had an incredible, I have just a story I'd love to share. We had a client who had been a kindergarten teacher, and then after she retired, this is decades and decades ago, so after she retired, she would go into the kindergarten once a week and she would read a story to them. And she got Alzheimer's. And she could no longer go into the kindergarten because she couldn't A, drive there, right? And B, she was actually not able to read the stories, right? But she still loved the kids. So she had long since given that up when we came on the scene. It had to have at least been a year or maybe even longer than that. And we said, let's try to be creative about our time. Could we reestablish that relationship with the school? So our caregiver would take our client into the school and read the story, right? So she didn't have to do that part, but she still got to be there. She still got to spend her time with the kiddos. I mean, a whole room full of kindergartners. Pass for me personally, but I'm more for the seniors myself. But this brought so much back to her to be able to do that.
That's
so
wonderful.
I always say we're time based, so we're there for a certain amount of time, and we work with the family to determine what's appropriate. But we try to be as creative as we can, giving them back things that maybe they've previously sort of stepped back from doing. We've had folks that I call it, we play crazy cards. So crazy cards is when we're playing a game, but we're kind of playing by our own rules, and just however the game flows, the game flows. So we've played gin, where someone's ginning on no runs and no sets, right? So, and it really, what it comes down to is, how are we doing things that are going to bring value to this person, that's
Right.
going to make them feel valuable, because we all have to feel like we're valuable.
So you mentioned something about having a caregiver and trying to find out whether they're right for them. What do you do, an assessment? What do you do? How does that look like when you first get, going to come in and kind of check out who's right for them in the first place?
We do. So our first phone call is almost always with the adult child, and the first time we're speaking, we really get to know what the adult child's goals are, because believe it or not, they may not be the same as the senior's goals.
Oh, really?
Right. And so what we want to do is, our seniors in their home, they've lived independently for maybe 8 years. We're really not there to tell them what to do, but we get to listen to what the adult child's goals are, and then we kind of take that, we put that to the back burner. We go in and we meet with the adult child and their mom or dad. And we get to know our senior and what's interesting to them and what do they want. And I always call it the 2 parallel train tracks. So what we're trying to do is get our trains from the same station to the same station around the same time. That would be nice. But they kind of each have their own set of tracks of things that are really important to them. And so during that first free assessment that we do, what we're doing is putting together a plan that gets those trains to the same place at the same time, preserving the seniors' independence and their own will, while still incorporating some of those important things that may not be on their radar. So as an example, sometimes adult child saying, hey, listen, my mom hasn't showered in 3 weeks. Okay, I think that's pretty important.
I
Right.
do too. I mean, I've got a couple of days, but
Right, 3 weeks is a long, so we've heard stories like that, and then it becomes, okay, we definitely know we want to get them in the shower, but I'm not gonna walk in and say, hi, Mrs. Smith, that was my mom, Mrs. Smith, hi, Mrs. Smith, let's take a shower today. I think
that's
that's a
not
little
gonna work
forward
very
and
well.
inappropriate, so what we're trying to do is develop a relationship, create
Right.
some value in the eyes of the senior, and then once you have a relationship with somebody, that person's gonna introduce the idea, you know what, I noticed that those clothes were on you the other day, hey, I picked you out a pretty dress, how about we put this on, great, why don't we take a shower
Why don't we
first?
take a shower
We're gonna
first?
work our way into it in a way that is still preserving their dignity.
So, a question, how hard is it for the adult child to have this conversation with the parent about it's time we get somebody in to help?
I think it varies, because some people, and I'll put myself on this, in this group, are pretty blunt and straightforward, and we just say it how it is, and we feel comfortable with that. And then I think the vast majority of people don't feel that way. They feel duty bound to help their parent, that's very common, right? They love their parents and they want to treat them with the respect that they deserve as their elders, or, the people that brought them to this point in life. And it's hard to kind of get that started, but oftentimes that's where I get to come in, or my team gets to come in. I always say, just get us to the appointment, we'll sit and talk together, and I'll say the stuff that's too uncomfortable for you to say, because that way you can preserve your
You don't have to
position
say it.
as the positivity, right? As
Mhm.
the, I think this could be good, let's talk about what we can, what the positives are from this.
Absolutely, it's so important, because it's probably one of the hardest times in the adult child's life, is that they have to now take over. And let me say something, I know that people do want to take care, I know there's a lot of people who feel that responsibility is on them, but how lovely is it where you can actually have a great relationship and continue that with your parents, because it's not easy to take care of them. It's
Sure.
just
No.
it's a whole nother ball game.
And it's not one or the other. I mean, bringing in caregiving assistance isn't like, okay, see ya to family assistance.
Mhm.
It merely augments or supplements what they already have going on, and that's a great opportunity for us to sit in a room and say, okay, you know, your kids work Monday through Friday, they're here every weekend assisting you, they even bring dinners at night, so we know that's taken care of. But they can't really take you to the Tuesday at 10 a.m. hair salon appointment that's been standing for the last 30 years. So that's where we come in. So it's not a one or the other, it's how do we work as a team, a care team, to be able to make sure that this individual stays out of the hospital, stays out of a nursing home or assisted living for as long as they can.
Their phone number is 480-360-4141. They're valley-wide. They're A+ rated with a Better Business Bureau. You're also 5-star rated everywhere. And what I know about you is when I talk about your passion, you're an advocate also for the senior, for the families, not just the senior, but I say the families, because you help them in so many ways. I don't know if we have a couple more minutes here or not, but I'm going to ask you about funding too. I mean, that's going to be a big part of it.
Absolutely. So that's always one of the first questions.
Yeah.
Is how do we pay for this? So there's a few ways. A lot of our clients do private pay, and once again, if you're comparing having somebody come into the house for 4 hours once or twice or 3 times a week compared to say going to an assisted living, much more affordable option, right? So it can still be very affordable. We also work a lot with the VA, and one of the resources that's definitely underutilized is the VA's benefit for home care. So the VA actually works directly with us to pay for home care for any veteran. And these are even folks who maybe have never been seen at the VA, which is very common. People, you know, did their service to our country, they moved on to their civilian life, got their civilian job with their civilian health insurance, and they never went back and looked at the VA.
They don't even know they have it.
Right, and you don't need to be seen there as your primary for your medical to be able to get access to this home care benefit. So we actually assist people in working their way who've never been registered with the VA before, and we assist them working their way on that. The other thing to consider is that Medicare now has a program called the GUIDE program. This is for people with straight Medicare, not one of the Advantage plans. But people with straight Medicare now have access to the GUIDE program. So folks that have any kind of cognitive impairment do have possibly some home care hours that will be awarded through that program.
Well, you don't know until you have the consultation with them, and that's what you do. That's what you're there for. And she's been doing this for, you said 21 years or something like that.
21 years.
It's a very long time. She's also walked the talk as well. Her phone number to call direct, it's 480-360-4141. They are valley-wide. You can check her out on her website. It's seniorhelpers.com. 5-star rated everywhere. And let me just tell you something, exactly what I've said all along. She's so passionate about helping people be able to stay in their homes. That's what they want. That's what they, especially the new seniors today. It's not like the old timers, you know, it was different. Now everyone really, they want to stay there as long as they can. And why shouldn't they when they can, and have a little help. Let you enjoy your parents' older years, right? So again, it's 480-360-4141. You can check her out. It's seniorhelpers.com.
Awesome.